if you're not networking with the chamber director, you're super under leveraged. I would way rather network the heck out of a relationship with the director or the owner of the network and say, who do I need to meet? Well, you need to meet Angela. Okay. Hi, Angela. Susie said I should meet you, right? You're one of the 3 people that she hand selected for me. So that's number 1, is what is the game plan? Then what is the conversation? Again, the conversation is when
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I'm your host, Angela Duncan. Today's episode, I get to interview Virginia Muzquiz. She is the referral diva with masterconnectors.com. We're going to talk about the hidden treasure in your network, how to best approach networking events. She's got some great tips and ideas for you, and the key to follow up. Check out this episode. Hi, Virginia. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast.
Hi, Angela. Thanks for having me today. I really appreciate being on the show.
Yay, I'm excited. One of the things that you're going to be teaching us today, I know is going to be extremely valuable for my audience, mostly entrepreneurs, and obviously we're heading into 2025. So before we get started though, I would love for you to share your backstory and talk about, how you got to being the referral diva queen.
How did I get to be the referral diva? The whole moniker is kind of a fun story in and of itself, but the journey has been my passion, sort of my DNA is as a teacher. So I can remember being super little and trying to teach my stuffed animals how to read. I had the most educated stuffed animals in New Jersey as a kid. And that led me down a path to becoming a teacher. And when I had my first daughter, I really wanted to stay at home with her. It just made a lot of sense. I'd had a stay-at-home mom as a kid, and so I wanted to stay home. And I became a member of the Mary Kay Independent Beauty Force, and spent 10 years in Mary Kay, learning how to market myself, learning how to differentiate myself from other Mary Kay ladies. I always thought like, yeah, I know, L'Oreal and Clinique are not my competitors. My competitor is my neighbor who also puts on a pink beauty coat every single day. So how will I be different from all the people who do exactly the same thing that I do, represent exactly the same brand that I represent? And then I graduated from being just a consultant to being a team leader and being a director. And I was really bad at that, Angela. I was so bad at it that it resulted in what I call my direct sales epic fail. And I got a job with the Sylvan Learning Center. And the first year, that was an epic fail as well, because the gentleman who owned it said, I'll make the phone ring. You book the tests and convert the clients. And I thought, look, if you can make the phone ring, I can sell my way out of a paper bag, because my problem was never selling. It was prospecting. It was getting people. And the phone never rang. And I was like, oh, I'm sucking wind. I've got all this debt from my direct sales epic fail, and I have no money because a big chunk of my compensation was commission based and the phone wasn't ringing. So I went to him and I said, you know what? I need to be in charge of the lead generation here, because if you're not going to generate the leads, I can't eat. And I don't like not having personal responsibility for me. I don't want to blame you for this being epically bad. So there was No Child Left Behind had come out, and there was this like gazillion million bazillion dollar opportunity doing tutoring in urban environments and in failing school districts. So I went to a mentor and I said, how do I do this? Like, I'm blonde, I'm white, I'm blue eyed. I don't know anybody in the hood. I don't know any of these people. I have no influence, no connections, nothing. And we put together a little plan for how I could create influence by borrowing influence, by giving influencers things that they needed that they couldn't have access to in other ways. Fast forward that whole story. By the end of 5 years, I had produced over $6.8 million in education sales. The last year we cleared $2.5 million. So just in that, like, I built that trajectory from $175,000 in our first year in annual revenue to $2.5 million in annual revenue, and we didn't have a single down year. We had a consistent uptick, and I had developed this system for building influence, and the fair exchange was their referrals, was their endorsement of us for a specific niche of students in their district. Then I taught other people how to do it. And then my business mentor said to me, hey, could you teach business owners how to do what you taught your regional managers how to do? Because if you could teach your regional managers to do what you've accomplished, and you could teach that to business owners, you could make a fortune. Like, it's brilliant what you've come up with. And so that was the birth of Master Connectors. It was the decision to take the lessons learned, the hard won lessons learned during those years with Sylvan Learning Center, and bring them to the solo practitioner, small business owner, what I like to call the Rainmaker CEO, and bringing those skill sets to them so they can find the hidden gems in their network, leverage networking once and for all, instead of just drinking endless cups of coffee and going to endless luncheons and shaking endless palms and handing out endless business cards and coming home empty-handed. And it's been a great journey ever since.
Yeah. So, fun fact, I had a friend in my early 20s who also sold Mary Kay. A lot of
Oh,
people
really?
did at the time. And she would always say, I'm going to invite another prospect when she would go to someone's house, and she would bring me and use me as like the makeup artist. But I'd be like, oh, it's so easy. I can just do it myself, and show them how I could do it myself. So it was good for her because she was trying to show them that it's easy to do your own makeup once you have the right supplies, right? So I thought that was a lot of fun. So thank you for sharing that part of your story. So diving into what you do today, I live in Miami, and there are countless networking events. And I remember, my early days of launching my insurance business, going to every event, trying to collect cards, and feeling like I was just wasting my time. So let's give some practical advice to perhaps some of our listeners that feel like they're in the same boat. They're always trying to chase for leads, and go to a new event. How can we kind of take a different approach and be more productive with what we're doing?
There are really two sides, two branches to that question. The first branch is, if I'm going to go networking for clients, please understand that you are cold calling in person.
Mm.
There was a day I built my entire Mary Kay empire, for the most part, cold calling out of the phone book while my babies napped. Some people yelled at me. Some people hung up on me. Some people said, oh my gosh, miracle. I've been praying for someone who has a creamy cleanser. I'm out and my person doesn't sell it anymore. Right. It was always sifting, like trying to find the hidden ruby in the haystack, if you will. And what I found is, if you're going to go to networking events and you're doing the Elmer Fudd, I'm hunting for clients, right? And the clients are your Webbits. You want to be very strategic about how you talk about what you do. You want to make sure that when you're networking, you're using your two ears and your one mouth in proportion. And you're listening for people to tell you that they have the problem that you solve, and that it's painful enough for them to want a solution. And the simple thing to say is, well, you know what? I help people with that all the time. If you'd ever like to have a cup of coffee about that, I'd be happy to hear a little bit more about your story and see if I can help. That's when you can hand over the card. So you have to have a strategic conversation, because just because someone looks like a duck and quacks like a duck doesn't mean they want to swim in your pond, right? They have to want your solution before you can even speak with them. So that's number one. The second part is, we know who our primary prospect is. If you're asking for anyone and everyone, you're going to get no one. So you want to have developed a very clear client avatar, and you want to tell stories about people. When they say, what do you do? Well, for example, I was working with a client, her name's Angela, and here's what I did with Angela. That's kind of how I help people. So when you're telling stories, you're not selling. You're doing something that we've done from time eternal. Tell me a bedtime story. Be engaging. The other branch of that is you can be much more effective if you can go out and find what I call upstream partners. Those are people who are doing business with your avatar, your ideal prospect. And in the normal course of their conversations, they can ask a couple of questions. So you do insurance, right? Is it primarily, Angela, property and casualty?
Primarily business owners. So if they own a business, business insurance.
Business insurance. Okay. So if I'm talking with a client, or I'm talking with a prospect, I can say, hey, by the way, has anyone talked to you about errors and emissions insurance? Because it's probably the number one thing that we don't have as a business owner and as a coach. And you can get fried on that. You give somebody one piece of advice that they misapply, they can come back and tell you and sue you because you lost them a bunch of money. And maybe they have a case and maybe they don't. But if they manage to get it in front of a jury or a judge, or manage to get it into the legal system, you want somebody to pay for that. You don't want to have to pay that $500 an hour for that attorney. You really want some errors and emissions insurance. So if you've taught me to educate my prospects and my clients on errors and emissions insurance, I can send them your way. That's the easiest thing to do. Then all the other insurances, you can just tell them about, well, let's look at this and let's look at your liability and let's look at the other things that you might need, right? So if you give me that front door, I can be your referral partner all day long. So you want to look for someone like, who are those people when I'm networking that can have that conversation, that one simple conversation? I can teach that to them. They can do it all day long. And then they can send me those referrals. And that's how you want to determine, who you want to network with. I want to network with people that can tell my story to the right person. And then I want to get to know them well enough to know, are they values aligned with me? Are they vibing with me? Would I be okay putting them in front of my clients? And by the way, what resources, knowledge, and networks do they have that they could provide to me in fair exchange? Because one of the biggest challenges we have with networking is we heard givers gain, the BNI motto, right? Givers gain. We've heard just give to enough people or help enough people get what they want and you'll have everything you ever wanted. Well, that's actually a bunch of BS. It's a huge myth. And we have to know what we want in fair exchange so that we can say, I'll give you this if you give me that, right? Like, let's be in a reciprocal relationship and do that intentionally. And that's why a lot of people get frustrated with networking, because they feel like they're giving all the time, but there's no receiving. And for me, I'm like, if everybody's giving and no one's receiving, where is all that giving going?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it going? Well, it's because we're not strategic about it. We don't go in knowing what we have to give and what we need to get. Where are our weak spots? Where do we need more resources? Where do we need some knowledge? What kind of connections do we need? And our lack of clarity is a big reason that we miss tons of opportunities when we're out connecting with other people.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I love your example, obviously using myself as
Of
the
course I do.
example. Yeah. So, like for me, the professional partnerships, I work with commercial bankers, right? Because if they're doing a loan for a business, then it's a good time to shop. I work with brokers that help companies buy and sell each other because that's a good opportunity as well. And we can reciprocate because if I have someone who's, calling about their insurance, maybe they're looking to acquire, or maybe they need some funding, So when you say that, like that win-win, I'm always asking those questions as well because I know that I have great partners that refer, so I want to be able to return it as well. And like you said, it could be just one additional question that you're asking your prospect that allows for you to refer back to the people that have been blessing you with business as well.
Yeah, I had an attorney that I worked with, and I loved what he did because he was a BNI member. And so he had all of his members write one question that he could ask on their behalf. And when he finished, he was a business attorney, so he set up entities. So at the end of setting up your entity, he would give you your notebook and he would say, well, here's your book of all your stuff. And I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions before we tie this up. And then he'd say, like, hey, have you had a website audit recently? Who's got your E&O insurance? Who's going to do this for you? Do you have a commercial building? Do you have a janitorial service? Like, he would just go through and ask these questions. And that's how he got referrals. And every time he wrote a business entity, or an estate plan, he would ask those questions. And week after week after week after week, he was the biggest referral partner simply because he chose to take that one proactive step. And
Mm.
so I think what's very important is for us as networkers to know, what is our question? What is our entry point question? And could I simply say, like, hey, Angela, you know, all those business owners you're talking to, if they're a Rainmaker CEO and they want more referrals, I would love to talk with them. That's it. So what's your plan for getting referrals for your business?
Love that. I
That's
would
it.
love to hear your expertise for someone that perhaps went to a networking event, felt like they made a good connection with someone. What's the best way to approach that person after the event, to get obviously them, whether it's coffee, what kind of language? Do you have any ideas that we can make sure that we're using the best use of time as well?
Absolutely. First of all, I think a lot of it starts with the actual conversation. So I'm going to back up the bus and I'm going to say, let's reframe networking as in-person marketing, word of mouth marketing. So that to me is an important distinction, because to me, networking is going out, handing out business cards, eventing, going to lots of events. If we are word of mouth marketing, we need to think about the pre, the during, and the post. So pre is, if I'm going to go to an event, who is there? uh, why am I going? What are my goals? What is my strategy? What do I have to give? What do I need to get? How can I get the guest list? Whatever that is. So, like at a chamber, I'm like, if you're not networking with the chamber director, you're super under leveraged. I would way rather network the heck out of a relationship with the director or the owner of the network and say, who do I need to meet? Well, you need to meet Angela. Okay. Hi, Angela. Susie said I should meet you, right? You're one of the 3 people that she hand selected for me. So that's number 1, is what is the game plan? Then what is the conversation? Again, the conversation is when someone says, well, what do you do? Short 1-minute story. You want to have your series of stories that you tell all the time, that they're easy to tell, they trip off your tongue. And then the rest of the conversation, the next 7 minutes of that conversation, should be you having strategic questions about that person.
Mm.
At the end of that conversation, if you like that person and you want to have a cup of coffee, there are one of 2 things you can do. One, I'm a high driver, I'm a high ID on the disc. So I like to book the appointment right then and there. So I would likely say to you, Angela, I don't want to take up all your time at this meeting. There's probably other people you need to meet. I've got 2 or 3 more people on my list that I need to connect with before I get out of here today. What do you say we follow up with a cup of coffee? Pull out your calendar. Like, I just whip out my phone and I go, I got time on Tuesday at 3:00. How about you? Where do you want to meet? So I'm likely to do it right then and there, because I also have ADHD and I don't follow up well. So I recognize that about myself. And I even tend to say, listen, I have terrible ADHD, which means when I walk out of the room, I'm going to forget we had this conversation. Let's get something on the books, because I do want to follow up with you and I don't want you to fall through the cracks, because you're super interesting and I think we could help each other. I'm going to book it there. If they're hesitant to do that, then I'm going to say, hey, why don't you give me your card and I'll follow up with a quick email or a phone call. When would be a good time for me to ring you up? Friday at noon. Great. I'll follow up with an email and I'll say, hey, Angela, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for sharing about X, Y, and Z. And as we discussed, I've got it on my calendar to give you a quick call on Friday. I'm going to go ahead and put it on your calendar as well with a Google invite, and you can yes or no or decline or whatever. So I take all the responsibility for getting that person to say yes and to show up. By using, I love technology, right? Because back in the day, I couldn't put something on your Google calendar.
Unless you're bringing like your paper version with you.
Right. I'm like, here, give me your what is it? Your Stephen Covey, planner, and I'll pencil myself in, right? Like,
Yeah.
hey, let's pencil each other in, and we whip out the notebook and be like, writing. So that's one way. Now, to get out of the conversation, like you and I just talked, and you're like, oh, let's get together. It'll be so fun. And I'm like, I don't want to, right? I might say, you know what, Angela, my schedule is crazy booked. In fact, it's closed for the next couple of weeks. But if you'll give me a couple of your cards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep you in mind. And when I run across somebody who, is talking to me about business insurance, I'll make sure that they know you exist. Would that be fair enough? Great. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn and let's follow up. No,
I love all this. It's the language that you're using because when you said that, I still feel like I'm super valuable. We had a great conversation. You know, you might refer me business, but I don't feel like you said no. So
yes.
that the way that you worded that was amazing.
Yeah. And here's something really interesting. So this is a huge issue for people that network, right? A lot of people who network are people pleasers. And I, for all my chutzpah that I have, I too am a bit of a people pleaser. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to make them feel bad. I don't want to be, that snarky networker. So what I started doing was saying, "Oh man, I'm booked like 3 weeks out. I could have had zero anything on my calendar, but I would say I'm booked 3 weeks out." And then I would start booking people 3 weeks out. So I'm at the networking event on the first of the month, and I'm like, "Man, I'm booked 3 weeks out. Let's look at something for the last week of the month." Well, when you do that, the first 3 weeks you do that, you don't have anything on your calendar. But 3 weeks later, you're booked 3 weeks out and you're booked 4 weeks out. And now I tend to be booked 6 weeks out because the one thing that I also think is very important here is that every appointment has a pre, a during, and a post. So once I get you on my calendar, I have pre-work to do. I need to look up your LinkedIn. I need to Google you. Have you posted any articles? I need to follow you on social media. I need to comment on your threads. I need to message you with an article of interest. I need to do some things pre-meeting to show you the love. So you're like, man, this person is amazing. By the time I get you on that call, you should be aching to be nice to me, aching to reciprocate. Right. So that's the during is tell me, hey, what did you think of that article I sent? Hey, I noticed on your, I read a chapter of your book and wrote a review. I listened to one of your podcast episodes. I didn't know that you had a YouTube channel. Right. So now I know more about you. And I start that conversation with lots of love and accolades and whatever. By the end of that conversation, you're like, what can I do to help you? What can I do for you? And usually I say, well, you could be a guest on my podcast. And suddenly they're like, right? Because I do need guests for my podcast. And a lot of my guests actually become my clients. So I want them on my podcast so that I can explore a little more whether or not they're going to be a partner or whatever. And I use that as a medium. And then I always book 30 minutes of follow-up time after a meeting to do what I said I would do. So if I promised you an introduction, when I get off the call with you or I'm done with the meeting, I'm going to take 30 minutes and I'm going to do those things right away. So I can say, you see that I took action. And that's important because I want you to take action. And word of mouth marketing is a game of I'll go first. But then I'm going to wait for you because I'm not going first and second and third and fourth and fifth and 10th and 47th. That's where the over giving happens. I'm going to go first and then I'm going to stop giving until I get a little bit back. So when you're booking your appointments, your 1 hour appointment should really be a 2 hour time block. And you can't do that many of them every week. If you're doing more than 3 to 5 coffee appointments or these sort of Zoom connection appointments each week, you're overbooked and you're overtaxed and you're not doing the pre-work and you're not doing the post-work and you're not following up and you're not nurturing the relationship. So it's super important to understand that I know people that are like, oh, I had 27 one-to-ones this week. And I think you're insane. What were you doing? These are supposed to be productive business meetings where you're marketing one another. And if I market you, that takes time for me. And the idea is that I couldn't find 10 prospects in 30 minutes, but you could find me 10 prospects in 30 minutes. And I could find you 10 prospects in 30 minutes because we're selling each other. And that third party recommendation, that third party piece is part of social selling. And it's essential and really necessary.
So as a business owner and, for the business owners that you coach, tell me what your thoughts are around affiliate marketing, like having an affiliate program for your business to be able to generate referrals that way.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. So affiliate marketing is fine. Money is the lowest vibrational currency of exchange. Cash, money. It's the lowest vibrational currency of exchange. There is no reason not to use it. And there are a lot of folks that do joint venture marketing and affiliate marketing, and I don't have a problem with it. And I do affiliate marketing for other people. And if their currency of exchange is to put $47 in my PayPal account, I graciously, gratefully accept it, write them a thank you note, and move right along. However, in referral marketing, there are other higher vibrational forms of currency. I have an amazing relationship with a business coach by the name of Rob Goyette. And Rob likes airline miles.
Hmm.
Or I'll call him and I'll be like, Rob, hey, I was thinking of you today. I want to make a deposit. What do you need? I need you to send out 3 emails, or I need you to help me with whatever. Great, no worries. And then he'll periodically call me and be like, hey, I feel like making a deposit for you. What do you need? And sometimes I'm like, I need some cash. What do you got? Like, what can I promote? I need some cash. So when you're in those kinds of relationships, the exchange may be very different. And I had a group of referral partners that if I had paid them out joint venture commissions, I probably would have paid out 25 grand. Instead, I got them cabins on the marketers cruise and I introduced them to 450 marketers, and they all made way more than the $3 or $4 or $5,000 that I would have paid them in those joint venture relationships, in those strategic meetings. And then I would host I host on the marketers cruise, I host a dinner. Every night that we're at sea, I host a dinner in the high-end restaurant. It's a great way to do it because you only have to pay like a $20 upcharge to a Morton steakhouse, right? So you're eating at Ruth Chris for like $300 for the table of 12, which I love, right? And so when you do those sorts of things, really great things come your way in that are bigger than cash. The last thing I'm going to say is it never works with your clients to say, hey, Angela, if you promote me, I'll give you a $25 Amazon gift card. That doesn't work. What does work is, Angela, thank you for promoting me and sending me Susie. I appreciate you so much. Here's a $25 Amazon gift card. Even better if I happen to know that Angela really likes to eat. God, there's this really great restaurant, the Social House. Do you know where that is? Down on Miami Beach. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm like, hey, Angela, I'm going to be in Miami and I want to take you and 3 of your favorite people to the Social House for a lobster eggs Benedict. Now you're like, wow, that's really great. Right. So it could be something completely different than money exchanging hands if you know what people like and what people value.
Yeah.
And you provide that for them. But with
And I think,
clients, it's almost always best to do it as an aftermath, not a preliminary promise. If you do this, I'll give you that. If I've done a good job for you, who else do you know? You just ask for the referral and then you reward it with something special.
yeah. And I think if business owners,
And then you reward it with something special.
yeah. And I think if business owners practice some of the tips that you gave earlier in the podcast, then they don't need to set up the affiliate program, because most of the times I'm looking for the link, trying to figure things out. I'd rather just tell people to go. Like I have a friend that has a big event in Miami every month. I just tell people to go. I don't need to send them my link that they're going to sign up, because the value for me is that they attend the event and then they get something from it. And then hopefully they remember me when they need something for insurance. So I agree with you on the affiliate link. I was just curious to see what your perspective was.
Well, I do it, right? But I think what's important is to be aware of the game that you're playing. So one of the games that I played during COVID was the clicks and opt-ins game. And about a year ago, a joint venture manager said, well, I see that last year you sent us 40 clicks, so we might be able to do a one-line mention in a newsletter for you this year. And I said, that's super interesting because you also paid me out $1,500 in joint venture commissions, which means I got you 6 clients.
Mm.
And so what you're telling me is that my measly 40 clicks are more important than the money, than the actual buyers that I sent you, because I don't, yes, I'll get you some clicks. Sure, I'll throw out an email, but you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to put something out there that says, are you like this, and this? Click this button and tell me this is who you are. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to say, hey, you said blah, 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 blah. Do you have this problem? Is this paining you? Do you have it? I'm going to do a sales call for you. So my way of affiliate marketing is very different from the way other people market. And my clicks, like I don't know about you, I don't eat clicks for dinner, and clicks don't pay my light bill. What pays my light bill and feeds my family is buyers. So if you value clicks and opt-ins more than you value my buyers, then we're not playing the same game. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not playing the same game. And so I opt out of the transactional clicks for clicks relationships as a general rule, because
you don't find value in it yourself. So yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I love opt-ins and I love that people jump on my mailing list and I love that people read my newsletter. I love all that. I do. And I value it. It's just, I don't want a transactional exchange that is tit for tat.
Right. You want the right people in your database and people who are going to participate and be active. So understand that 100%. Virginia, you have a freebie. I love freebies on our show. So I would love to hear what you're going to offer for our audience.
So what I have for you is my business by referral blueprint. And it is the 6 essential T's. I love alliteration. So it's the 6 essential T's every Rainmaker CEO, business owner needs to know to turn their networking into marketing so they can make money.
Awesome. And where can we find the freebie?
You can go to masterconnectors.com/blueprint. So listener, if you're driving, wait until you get parked somewhere or check the show notes later. Yeah. It's masterconnectors.com/blueprint. You can also connect with me, Virginia Muzquiz, on LinkedIn and ask me for it there. If you forget if you can't find the link, you can just hit me up on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. One final chance to give a tip to our audience. Take away from all the lessons you have learned in your life. One final tip for the audience.
I think probably the best one that I ever got was from one of my mentors, Scott Conway, which is this: when you're networking, give to givers who give. And when you find out someone's a taker, quietly sift them out of your world.
Love that. Love that. Awesome. Well, Virginia, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to interview you on Empower Her Money podcast.
Thank you so much, Angela. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Are you a business owner looking to increase your profit? Imagine transforming every podcast guest appearance to profit. It's your turn to shine as a podcast guest. I have created a course just for you. It's the secret to profiting from podcasting and being a guest. Go to podcastmoneymagnet.com today and check out this incredible course that's going to teach you how to grow your brand and grow your bank account. Feel the shift as you master being a podcast guest. Podcastmoneymagnet.com today.